well, the very first thing, right, is like the casting call asked for poets and slam poets specifically, and that came out of my conversation with the poets at the Poetry Foundation and their generosity offering like how to read this play as a poet, and then when you guys came in the room during that first rehearsal. And it's in your audition, because you auditioned for a different role.
Yeah.
But really, you, like, even the second when you read the side for the poet, and I was like, holy crap. Like, this is like an unreal what feels possible with these thinkers. The only thing I knew was that we couldn't have actors acting like poets.
Yeah.
Like, you had to really trust the poetry as an ancient form of storytelling. And that's part of the reason I felt like I couldn't, like, direct you, right? Like, it wasn't like, oh, here's this, and now here's this moment, and here's this beat, and here are the stakes. But, like, actually it required y'all to do the thing that you did, which is, like, to find your truth in the words. So what do you think your role is?
I mean, building off what you said now, and then you positioned us with that as compassionate witnesses, right?
Yeah.
That was the thing that kind of threaded the process, was like, as the chorus, we have very little lines, and even fewer in this production because we cut some, where we intervene in the play. And so there's like an aspect of like knowing that there's only so much that we can do for these people making decisions that we can anticipate will ultimately harm them. And so I think that, and I'm gonna pass this to you, maybe because I think you said this during the process and after, is that like it sort of evolved into sort of like people, like the chorus commenting on the action. So we became like these witnesses, and then when we stepped into these odes, then we became sort of mouthpieces for not ideally, but potentially what the audience is also feeling. This sort of like, what a remarkable piece of work is man. We just witnessed this woman go against the king of a city-state to do something that was directly illegal, and then take full responsibility for it, and then buck back, and like, but then also try and conquer, quote unquote, conquer death by laying her brother to rest. The beauty of the process that we made, and that the freedom that you gave us, is that like, we have tent poles to play with. We have a really like hardy sandbox, but there are some things that will never and can't ever be the same. And I think that level of like the combination of the love of the form, the freedom to play every night, and then also the work that we're doing as far as like the conversation that I alluded to before, the healing work that you and I are doing, or working towards. And the like idea of the appealing to the gods, that smorgasbord just makes it something that like you can't not have a dope cake if you just like follow those steps. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and I think too, actors, we have our own subtext when you're doing work. And so my personal subtext is, I know I do say the Greek gods, mention their names, but I have my own faith. And so in delivering some of these pieces and things, it's a direct call within my faith. And so I think it's coming from a place of worship, as you say, so it doesn't feel quite like I'm doing a play.
Yeah.
I hit stage left and but that like you've created this room and space to do that. And
yeah, the line gets a little blurred in those moments between like Euboule and Cage and Danielle, my relationship to Demophilus versus my relationship to Danielle, because it's like the amount of trust that I have to have that rhythmically, emotionally, spiritually, that this person is gonna have my back. It just requires a level of presence that like, I think when people see, I think for me, like my faith is like presence, being here now is where God is. Time past, now and forever, all those things condensed is where my faith lives. And so when I'm here with Danielle and Euboule's here with Demophilus in the context of what we build / what you build, I don't know, it can't not be that.
And the cool thing is that people's sort of like gut reaction is like, oh man, that is so different. Except for the classicists. All of the classicists say this is the closest thing to what it was, right? Because
Bacchanalia,
right? Because like we as theater makers have, and this is why we needed poets, right? Because we as theater makers have like put all of these levels between ourselves and our performance, and the way that we access it is oftentimes like from our trauma or from like really hard things, really difficult things, or in as a sense as if like if we open it we can control it, like we can like open it like a refrigerator, get one thing out, use it, have a big feeling, and then put it back. But like what, like at the birth of like what we think of as Western theater, but then like when we think about like storytellers going back to griots on the continent, right? Like that line was not there because like the respect for what you were tapping into meant that like you knew you couldn't control it, and so you just had to set the conditions for how you went in and how you can come out.
Correct.
But when you're in there, you're doing it. And you believe that the thing that we're doing is more powerful than like than just you, right? That it's you and it's more than that, and like that's what you guys are tapping into.